Good afternoon, Andrew. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. My first question to you is, what do you like about your work?
Hi Tom, absolute pleasure to be here this afternoon. My name's Andrew Roughan for the audience. I'm Managing Director of a company called Plexel. Plexel's an innovation centre on the Olympic Park in London, and we help some of the UK's fastest growing companies, typically technology companies, achieve their ambitions in the early stages of their company's growth journey. Now, in terms of what do I love about my job, it's probably the diversity of the job, actually. So all of the different challenges that we get presented with every day and the different groups of people that we get to work with. Now, as I mentioned, our innovation centre typically works with fast growth companies of any shape and size. And typically they're using technology as the method by which they grow. So as a result of that, we facilitate the office space where those companies are housed. So lots of my job is about property, about understanding leases and relationships, contractual relationships with customers as to how they occupy property. We then operate a huge event space. So lots of it is about marketing that event space and welcoming in big companies, small companies, hosting events, making sure those events run smoothly and achieve their objectives. And then probably the most interesting part of my job is an innovation consulting team, where we typically work with governments and large companies in order to present challenges to the smaller companies so that they can make sure their products are most relevant to the marketplaces they're going to try and sell into. And we then use those challenges in order to further fuel the growth of those companies. So every single day is completely different. I have challenges from the very mundane to the superbly ridiculous in equal measure. And I think the classic example of this was last year around about June. It was London Tech Week, and we were hosting Theresa May, who was then Prime Minister, to do the keynote at London Tech Week in our facility. About 12 hours before meeting Theresa May, and I had an hour with her on my own, I was painting the wall in Plexel because it had marks on the wall. And it's the beauty about working for ourselves as small and growing companies. You have to do everything, and you have to enjoy doing everything, and that's what really gets my juices flowing, gets me out of bed in the morning.
Excellent, thank you. And how did you first get started?
So I took very early on in my education and early career, I was very traditional in the routes that I took. So I did GCSEs and A-levels, went on to do a degree. I ended up doing a law degree, not necessarily by design, probably a little bit by consequence of my sister having done it before, and it seemed like a reasonable thing to do. I then decided I didn't want to be a lawyer and just wanted to apply for a graduate scheme with a big company. So really traditional choices of kind of trying to end up on the kind of train of success as it was predetermined by someone else. I ended up on a graduate scheme for a company called Marconi, which is since gone into other ownership. So part of it has gone into BAE Systems, another part into Ericsson. But it was then a big British company, a big industrial company where I was on a graduate scheme journeying around the company in the usual manner. But I think it's quite interesting to reflect. It's probably the last stage of my career that went down the traditional route. Ever since then, I've been wandering, discovering, finding new ways of imagining what next in my career. And it's probably that's provided quite a lot of learnings that I could reflect upon to think about what really made my career path and where the key decisions were along the way.
What advice would you give to someone looking to start out in a similar career?
I think the best advice that I have learned and not often taken is to be brave and to try everything. Now, if I were 16 or 18 again, I wouldn't be focused on what my career would look like in 20 years' time, because you'll get it wrong. You'll learn to love different things along the way, and your experience and mistakes and successes along the way will inform whatever happens next. So I wouldn't overplan. I would take on every opportunity that is presented to you, and I would focus entirely on building relationships. I think in my career, the best moves and the best projects that I've ever worked on are with people that I enjoy working with and value the relationship that I've had with them. You enjoy the job more, you get more out of it, and you deliver more as well as a result. So I'd always be looking left and right about who's working in and around you, who the decision makers are, who the people who are, your example that you might choose to follow. Pick one of those people, sit by their side, learn from them, deliver for them, and follow their example, and that will lead to the next opportunity.